Should you buy Assassin's Creed Valhalla? The newest entry in the Assassin's Creed franchise has been out for over a year now, and although received pretty positive overall, critically and definitely commercially, as the game is Ubisoft's second most sold game of all time. However, the AC community in its entirety were quite divisive over whether this game was good or not. I for one thought Valhalla was a pretty good game, and I'd like to go over its merits and things that bring it down to come to the conclusion of whether the game is still worth buying over 1 year after its initial release. Of course, no spoilers in this section. Let's just go over the main premise of the narrative, whether it's good and also whether the music retains the essence of the previous games and whether it's any good as well. Of course, we're in the time period of Vikings, meaning that the incorporation of assassins had to feel a little odd, paired with these warriors with a lust for blood. The game's story focuses around the concept of building your Norse empire in England, which is the main territory within the game, as you explore, raid, and create alliances across the expanse of the land of England as you build up your clan to be the most powerful clan in England. On the forefront, this concept is extremely awesome, and if executed properly, sounds like it could create a story that would be truly riveting. Assassin's Creed Valhalla's story is good. I wouldn't say that the protagonist Eivor or any of the side characters even match up to the sheer development and incredible writing that was presented in the Ezio trilogy, and although that's sad to know, we've kind of known that the franchise in terms of its story would never be able to reach such sheer levels of an awesome character arc, especially when they are switching the protagonist every single game. Despite this, I think Eivor works really well in this game, and his development is also pretty well written, but the supporting cast and the rest of the game's characters do actually fall flat. Some better than others though, as characters such as Sigurd and Basim are actually really awesome characters, and any scenario in which they were in usually ended up in a cutscene or story moment that was actually pretty awesome. For the villains and other characters, I can't really say that they were well developed or that they were incredible at all, which is actually really disappointing in terms of a narrative approach. Also, the game gives you the option to choose from a male or female Eivor. Personally, I'd say in terms of the canon and how the story actually works, the male one is definitely better. There's that brother relationship the game builds with Sigurd, and when using the female Eivor, it doesn't feel as natural, and many of Eivor's main character moments or moments of development kind of fall flat when using the female Eivor, who doesn't have that same fury that is so obviously implied by the actions and tones of Eivor as a male. I'd say to really get the most out of the story and of the main character as a whole, the male Eivor fits the narrative better and will definitely make the dialogue and interactions with others a lot more natural and well made opposed to the female one. Overall, the game has a decent story, but it doesn't use the story of the assassins or the Templars, which is always disappointing, but it does have some key and crucial moments that make it out to be a good story, and I'd say overall the story in this game is pretty good. However, the gameplay which complements it is what makes it truly stay up and seem viable in an industry where story-based games have become so prevalent. Now quickly, let's touch on the soundtrack, which has the traditional AC composers on it, which really gives it that distinct feel of Assassin's Creed, and some of the themes in the game are so well made and it fits within every scenario, which is always a bonus and is something that the franchise as a whole had been known for over a decade. So having such amazing music that fits the story being told always boosts the experience, and in this case it is absolutely incredible due to the original composers and how it fits in the Viking era that the game is set in seamlessly. The combat in Assassin's Creed Valhalla is the same RPG style that we had in Assassin's Creed Origins and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is satisfying and feels rewarding. There are many different weapon types in the game, just as there were in Odyssey and Origins. There are spears, two-handed swords, two-handed axes, battle axes, flails, hammers, bows, and more. There's just something so great about different weapon combinations, either it be using a skill unlock to use two-handed swords, or two flails, two hammers, or maybe a sword and a shield. And what's amazing and unique about switching your arsenal and combinations in this game is that they actually do something different to each other and are all viable in combat, and no one combo in my opinion can be stronger or weaker than the other. Each combination also has its own finishes if you use that on your foes. For example, if you're using two-handed axes, one of the unique finishes you can get only with this weapon combination is Eivor will slice the enemy in half as you see both halves of their body fly onto the chaotic battlefield. Or with two hammers you can get a finish finisher where Eivor will hold the two hammers and crush the skull of his enemy. Also saying that reminds me that I would like to say that Assassin's Creed Valhalla has to have the most brutal combat in any Assassin's Creed game to date. Every animation, stun attack, and finisher is so brutal, but also so satisfying to pull off. And also, Assassin's Creed stealth gameplay is back with this game. You can once again jump from ledges, assassinate enemies from on top of them. You can also ledge assassinate. You can even do time assassinations on mini-boss enemies, or enemies that just have more health than the usual enemies you face. All the crouching in long grass and bushes and behind walls is all back in this installment, which is really weird to say because that should be a given with a franchise that is literally called Assassin's Creed and bases off all of its gameplay on stealth. But that's beside the point. Stealth and being an assassin is literally everything that Assassin's Creed is. However, using the stealth in this game moreover feels like a burden and something that the game was built around, which is how previous Assassin's Creed games felt. And that's so damn disappointing in my opinion, as the game in its stealth doesn't really stick to the roots of the franchise. Now for the open world, a horse is the main mode of transport you will use in this game, and of course your longship, which I'll discuss in just a second. Riding through the beautiful open plains of 9th century England, or running and jumping across the rooftops of London, this all makes Assassin's Creed Valhalla's open world one of the best I have seen in the franchise to date. All weather and outside animations are realistic and make the world feel alive. Then there's the longship, which let me just say is such a blast to be on. Your crew will sing songs and tell stories through night and day while you'll sail all the way to your next territory. Then when the raid icon pops out, Eivor will blow the Viking horn, all crew members screaming onto the battlefield, making each one of these raiding events feel dramatic and impactful to the story and just to the world of Valhalla in general. Overall, I really do enjoy the gameplay of this game, despite stealth not being utilized as much as it should, but it makes up for it with a good open world that I actually really enjoyed exploring on the first time I played the game, and gameplay mechanics that feel refreshed and rewarding. So yes, I do believe that Assassin's Creed Valhalla is still worth buying over a year after its initial release due to the reasons I stated throughout the video, being the decent story, incredibly well composed soundtrack, the really intuitive gameplay and well made open world that all contribute to it being a pretty good game. Now to give the game a score, as I've been doing for a while now, is a respectable 7.5 out of 10, which I think is another derivative in whether or not you choose to buy this game in the first place if you're a bit skeptical even after the proposed reasons in which you should buy this game. Anyway everyone, that's all from me for today's video. I'll see you all for tomorrow's video. Peace.